I blame my grandfather for my love of cold mornings and diesel exhaust. When I was a kid, my parents would drop me off before school so he would take me to the bus. But most mornings, we'd just stop by his logging operation first. I climbed into the truck while it warmed up, watching my breath in the cab and listening to that diesel engine idle in the dark. Back then, I thought I loved the equipment. Looking back, I don't think it was the equipment that hooked me. It was the feeling, being up before everyone else. The smell of fresh cut timber, the glow of work lights in the dark, watching grown men build things. 30 years later, I still find myself chasing that same feeling. I started my career at 18 as a laborer for a small excavation company in Bend, Oregon. They hired me along with 4 other laborers. Some were older, some were stronger, but none of them had my superpower. I was too dumb to quit. Our first task was wheelbarrowing material across 2 rickety 2x10s laid over 10-foot deep trenches through the mud. It was miserable work. I remember thinking, I can't believe someone is paying me to do something I'd probably do for free. At lunch, 2 of the laborers left and never came back. The next day, there were fewer of us. A few days later, fewer still. Before long, I was the only one standing. The foreman looked at me and simply said, "Only the strong survive." At the time, I thought he was talking about strength. Now I think he was talking about something. That lesson followed me north, farther north than I ever imagined. Found myself working in some of the most remote places in Alaska, living in camps, working 7 days a week, spending months away from home, building airports, highways, ice roads, and infrastructure in places most people will never see. Places where supplies came in by barge or airplane. Places where the weather could shut a job down in a matter of hours. Places where the nearest Walmart was hundreds of miles away. Long before daylight, we'd be climbing into machines, warming them up, getting ready for another shift. And every once in a while, sitting there waiting for the engine to warm up, I'd think about Grandpa's logging operation. This isn't the biggest excavator I've ever ran. It isn't the smallest. But it's one of many machines that help me provide for my family over the years. The cab, the joysticks, the tracks, they become part of you after a while. One of the most powerful things a person can do is move earth. There's something hard to explain about watching your hands become extensions of a machine. Taking raw land and shaping it into something useful, a road, a runway, a subdivision, a foundation for someone's home. What started as trees, brush, and dirt slowly becomes something people will use long after you're gone. Over the years, I've run just about every kind of heavy equipment you can think of: excavators, dozers, loaders, graders, rollers, scrapers, and milling machines. Probably a few things I'm forgetting. But if I had to pick favorites, I'd always be graders and dozers. Those machines are raw power, but they also demand finesse. Anybody can make dirt move. Not everybody can make it look right. A dozer teaches you patience. A grader teaches you humility. Every pass tells the truth. There's nowhere to hide. The road either drains or it doesn't. The slope is either right or it isn't. The grade is either smooth or everyone sees the mistake. That's one of the things I've always loved about grading and paving. When you're done, your work is out there for everyone to see. Paving and grading have always been my bread and butter. I've always been drawn to the jobs most people avoid because of the difficulty. The tight tolerance, the long hours, the pressure. The jobs where one small mistake can affect everything that becomes after. Maybe that's because I was never the smartest guy in the room. I was just willing to stay with the problem until it was solved. Earthwork brought adventure, purpose, and a good living to my family. It put food on our table, paid our bills, and allowed us to build a life in Alaska. But you can't go as hard as I did, for as long as I did, without losing something along the way. Construction was the original hustle culture. Outworking your competitors, missing birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, school events, family dinners was often seen as a badge of honor. If you didn't show up, if you weren't profitable, you could be replaced. I've seen good men fired for missing too many days because their kids were sick. I've seen new mothers struggling with postpartum depression let go because they didn't have their head in the game. As corporations bought up small family-owned businesses throughout the 90s and 2000s, employees slowly became numbers on a spreadsheet. Numbers tied to production. Numbers tied to profit. Numbers that could be erased and replaced. That really creates fear. It creates stress. It creates a constant worry about job security. And the people who pay the highest price are often the families waiting at home. The very reason we work so hard can slowly become phone calls, FaceTime conversations, and missed memories. One day you look around and realize your children are older, your parents have aged, and moments you thought would always be there have quietly passed by. No amount of overtime can buy those moments back. That is the true cost of the work.
You want to help?
For years, I thought success meant working more hours, more projects, more responsibility, more money. I told myself I was doing it for my family. The truth is, I was. Every long shift, every missed holiday, every night spent away from home was done with the hope of building a better life for the people I loved. Then one day the work stopped. The phone quit ringing. The schedules disappeared. The airports, highways, gravel pits, and construction sites that had defined so much of my life were suddenly behind me. For the first time in years, I was home. At first, it felt uncomfortable. I wasn't used to sitting still. My mind kept telling me I should be somewhere else, building something, fixing something, chasing the next job. But slowly I began to notice the things I'd been missing. Morning coffee with my wife, helping my kids with projects, family dinners together, watching a sunset from my own property instead of through the windshield of a company truck. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't living for my days off. I was living my life. Not long after, I found myself working for a small local company close to home. The jobs were different. No massive corporate meetings, no airports, no $100 million projects, just honest work. Clearing lots, building driveways, digging foundations, helping neighbors build their piece of Alaska. The projects were smaller, but something felt different. I knew the people I was working for. I could see the results of my work in my own community. And at the end of the day, I could go home. The funny thing is, I spent years believing I was building a life through work. What I eventually learned was that work was supposed to support life, not replace it. I still love heavy equipment. I still love moving dirt. I still love building things that last. The difference now is I know why I'm doing it. Not for a title, not for a corporation, not for the next promotion. For my family, for my community. The life waiting for me when the machine shuts off and I head home. Because after all, those years of chasing the next project, I finally realized the most important thing I was building had been waiting for me at home this whole time. When I think about where it all started, my mind always goes back to my grandpa. Long before the machines, the projects, the jobs, and the responsibilities of adulthood, there was a little boy watching a man he admired. Grandpa wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. He didn't leave behind a company truck with his name on the door. What he left behind was something far more valuable, an example. He taught me that a man's word matters, that hard work matters, that when something is broken, you fix it, that when people need you, you show up. Some of the most important lessons in my life weren't taught with words. They were taught through actions. Watching him work, watching him treat people, watching the way he carried himself when nobody was looking. As a kid, I thought strength was measured by how much a man could lift, how hard he could work, or how long he could go without quitting. Now that I'm older, I understand real strength looks different. It's patient, it's sacrifice, it's being present, it's loving your family well. The older I get, the more I realize that many of the things I value most came from him. Sometimes I look at my own children and wonder if they'll remember me the way I remember him. That's the strange thing about life. The people we love never really leave us. Their lessons remain, their influence remains. And if we're lucky, we pass those good things on to the next generation. The work I've done, the things I've built, and the life I've lived are all part of my story. But the foundation was poured long before I ever climbed into a machine. It started with Grandpa.